The house was too big for one person. James knew this every morning when he woke up and walked through rooms that no one used. 12 bedrooms, a dining table that sat 20, hallways so long they had an echo. He was 42 years old, worth more money than he could ever spend, and he ate breakfast alone every single day. James Cole had built his company from nothing. He had grown up poor, worked hard, made smart choices, and one day looked up to find himself on the cover of a business magazine. People called him a success story. He called himself tired. He poured his coffee and stood by the window, watching the city wake up below. His phone buzzed. 3 messages. One from his girlfriend, Sandra. "Babe, I found the most amazing bag in Paris. Only $4,000. Can you sort it? Love you." Kissy face. One from his assistant, Tom. "Good morning, sir. I've arranged your interview for next week. I've written your answers already. It'll make you look very good." And one from Rose, the woman who cleaned his house every day. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. I noticed the kitchen light was flickering. I changed the bowl before you woke up. Coffee is ready on the counter." He stared at that last message. He hadn't asked her to change the bulb. She just noticed it, fixed it, and said nothing more about it. Rose had worked in his house for 4 years. She was quiet, careful, and always on time. She didn't talk much unless he spoke first. She never asked for favors. She did her work and went home. He knew very little about her, and somehow that bothered him more and more lately. He knew a lot about Sandra. She loved shopping, hated being bored, and posted everything on social media. He knew a lot about Tom, sharp, always planning, always thinking about how things looked from the outside. But Rose, she was just there, steady, like a clock on the wall you only notice when it stops. The idea came to him one evening. He sat in his study with a glass of water and 3 envelopes on the desk in front of him. Inside each one was a simple card, a bank card connected to an account with no limit. He wrote 3 names on the envelopes: Sandra, Tom, Rose. He was not trying to trick anyone, he just wanted to know the truth. Not the truth people tell you when they know you're watching, the real truth, the kind that comes out when no one is looking. He called his friend at the bank and set everything up. The next morning, he gave each of them their envelope personally. "Use it for whatever you need," he said. "No questions, no limit." Sandra smiled wide and hugged him tight. Tom nodded slowly, already thinking. Rose looked at the envelope, then at him. "Are you sure, Mr. Cole?" "Yes," he said. "Please." She thanked him quietly and tucked it into her back. Sandra used the card the same day. New shoes, a dress, dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city with her friends James had never met. By the end of the first week, she'd spent more than most people earn in a year. She sent him photos of everything. "Look how cute. Aren't you glad I found this?" He wasn't glad. He was sad in a way he couldn't quite explain. Tom was smarter about it, which made it worse. He used the card for things that looked professional, a new laptop, a business trip, a conference. But when James looked closer, none of it was for the company. It was all for Tom's own side project, a small business he had been building quietly while working for James. He hadn't told James any of it. James sat with that fact for a long time. He almost didn't check what Rose had done. He was afraid to. She was the one person who still felt real to him, and he didn't want that to change. But after 2 weeks, his bank friend called him. "The 3rd card," he said. "It was used once." James waited. "A children's hospital. She paid the full bill for a sick little boy. His family had nothing." James put the phone down. He sat very still. Then he asked, "How much is left on the card?" "Almost everything," his friend said. "She barely used it." He found Rose in the garden the next morning, watering the plants along the back wall. She wore her usual simple clothes, hair tied back, moving slowly and carefully like she had all the time in the world. "Rose," he said. She looked up. "Good morning, Mr. Cole." He walked over and stood beside her. "The hospital," he said. She didn't look surprised that he knew. She just nodded. A boy named Danny. He's 6. His mother works 2 jobs and still couldn't cover the bill. She paused. I've known the family a little while. It felt like the right thing to do. Why didn't you use more of it? He asked. There was no limit. She looked at him simply. I only needed enough for Danny, she said. What would I do with the rest? He didn't have an answer. Can I ask you something? He said. Of course. Are you happy working here? I mean, he thought about it honestly, which he appreciated. People usually just said yes without thinking. I like work that means something, she said. I like things to be clean and cared for. I like noticing what needs fixing before it becomes a problem. She smiled a little. I don't need much. I just need the work to matter. James looked at the garden. He had never really looked at it before. Rose had planted flowers along the old stone wall, little ones in different colors, nothing expensive. It looked warm. It looked like someone cared about it. Sandra and I broke up, he said, last night. Rose was quiet. And Tom is no longer my assistant. She still said nothing, but she wasn't uncomfortable with the silence the way most people were. I'm telling you because he started again. I'm telling you because I think I've been surrounded by people who wanted things from me, and I got so used to it that I almost missed the one person who didn't. Rose looked at him then, really looked. Mr. Cole, she said carefully, I'm just the woman who cleans your house. I know, he said, but you changed a light bulb before I woke up. You paid a little boy's hospital bill and said nothing about it. And right now, you're the most honest person I've spoken to in years. She was quiet again. I'm not very exciting, she said finally. I don't like parties, I forget to dress up. I'll want to adopt a cat eventually, probably 2. He smiled, a real one. Okay. She's serious about the cats. So am I, he said. She laughed, a small, soft laugh, like she was surprised it had come out. Can I help you water the plants? He asked. She handed him the watering can. You'll probably overdo it, she warned. Tell me if I'm doing it wrong. I will, she said. I always do. They took things slowly, very slowly. There were dinners at simple restaurants, walks in the park, long conversations about small things. He learned that behind the money and the big house, he was just a man who had worked too hard for too long and forgotten to ask himself what any of it was actually for. She reminded him. They got married on a Saturday morning. Small wedding, close friends only. She wore a simple white dress and carried a few flowers from the garden she had planted herself. He cried before she even reached him. She walked toward him calmly, smiling, like she had already made her peace with choosing him, and was at peace with it. The house didn't feel too big anymore. They got 2 cats, Rose had been right about that. The dining table had people around it more often now, neighbors, old friends, sometimes the family of the little boy Danny, who was healthy and growing and had taken to calling James Uncle James for reasons nobody had planned. One evening, they sat on the back steps together, watching the sun go down over the garden. The cats were chasing something in the grass. It was quiet in the best kind of way. Do you ever think about how different things could have gone? James asked. Rose leaned her head on his shoulder. Sometimes, but I try not to. Why? Because I'm here now, and here is good. He put his arm around her and looked at the little garden she had built, flower by flower, along the old stone wall. He thought about all the big things he had chased in his life, the deals, the headlines, the money. And here was the thing that made him feel full, a quiet woman with muddy hands and 2 cots, and a garden nobody had asked her to plant. She had just done it because it seemed like the right thing to do. He had paid attention, finally, and it had changed everything.